Hello, my name is ldelciello, and I'm the managing editor for Water Quality Products magazine. While we can't gather in person for PWQA this year, I am excited to virtually meet many of you this week. In this tech talk, I'll tell you a little bit more about how to engage with WQP and then share two special video interviews, part of our Checking In video series. The first is with Greg Reyneke, Managing Director for Red Fox Advisors, current Pacific Water Quality Association President, and Water Quality Association Board of Directors member, on adapting to a virtual sales environment and moving into recovery following business disruptions caused by COVID-19. And the second video interview is with DJ Shannahan, current President for the Water Quality Association and President for Sharpwater Culligan. That conversation covers DJ's goals as current WQA president to increase engagement, particularly among young professionals and women in the water industry. First, a little bit of background on WQP's editorial mission. Our purpose is to provide editorial content and information to help water treatment professionals do their jobs more effectively while educating them on the latest technology. WQP provides editorial content in a variety of informative ways, both in print and digital format. We provide news, industry updates, and coverage across our print magazine, also available in digital edition, our website, WQPmag.com, our water industry podcast, Talking Underwater, our social media channels, including Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and our video series, Checking In, as you'll see today. So now, here's that interview with Greg Reyneke. I do want to remind you that this interview was recorded in May 2020, as the current business climate is constantly evolving right now. And if you're interested in checking in or submitting editorial for consideration for publication in WQP, please email me at wqpeditor@sgcmail.com or message me via LinkedIn. Now enjoy. Welcome to Checking In, a video series with Water Quality Products. I'm ldelciello. I'm the managing editor for WQP, and I'm joined today by Greg Reyneke, who's the managing director for Red Fox Advisors, current president for PWQA, and serves on the WQA board. Thank you for joining me today, Greg.
Hi, Lauren. It's my pleasure.
I'm really honored you could take some time out of your busy schedule to check in with me today. I know that it's a crazy time for all of us, so I really, really appreciate your time today, Greg.
Oh, you're very kind. It's great to take a break in the hectic schedule and just talk to a fellow industry professional and hopefully get some insight from your side of the fence and what's going on in your world as compared to what's going on in ours.
Yeah, so let's just start by checking in. How are you doing? How's your day-to-day shifted in these past 2 months?
You know, a large part of my life is travel, and I was hoping I'd see a little break because of the lack of airline travel. I've only had to fly on one flight in the last 3 weeks, which is unique. But I'm busier now than I was same time last year. And I found that the time that I would have spent traveling and going between airports and railway stations and things like that, I'm now spending on Zoom meetings and GoToMeetings and WebExes and Google Hangouts and Microsoft Team meetings and everything else. And so we've been very blessed. Our business, thankfully, is part of the essential sector, as most water-related businesses are. And so we've continued unabated. And it's really ramped up for us. We've been very, very busy. And of course, our clients on the consulting side are all concerned about resiliency and how to adapt to the changing market and then what to do next. So there's a lot to talk about. And then at the association level, where I'm very heavily involved, there's been a lot of work behind the scenes trying to help protect association members from misguided government actions. So we're busy, but we're happy.
Yeah, I appreciate your optimism. And I've heard that echoing sentiments from a lot of dealers and even manufacturers that I've spoken to in these past few months is that they're busier than ever. And especially a big part of that is trying to find ways to adapt their business to this increasing environment of virtual sales, contactless transactions, while all at the same time prioritizing safety for both their customers and their employees, number one, during this whole experience. So from the consulting side and also from your hat as current president of PWQA, where I'm sure you're involved frequently in checking in with members, how have you seen businesses adapting to this shifting landscape that we're facing right now?
Well, I'm thrilled and pleased to report that the market always finds a solution. And it's been really fun watching the various dealers and dealerships innovate, find ways to leverage technologies that I never thought I'd see. A few nights ago, I was talking to a dear friend of mine. He's in his mid-70s. And I didn't perceive him to be an early adopter of technology. And he was telling me all about the 6 Zoom conference sales presentations he did today. And that made my heart happy. And I'm seeing this all over the country, East Coast through West Coast. The dealers that want to succeed are succeeding because they're adapting to the changing environment. And this is probably the biggest takeaway that anybody can take from COVID-19 and COVID-20 and the zombie apocalypse and whatever comes next. The year is young. We got murder hornets on the radar now.
2020 is one for the books.
It's a great year. And we all find ways to adapt. And I really respect that. Small business owners who rely on feeding their families and serving their clients, they find ways to adapt. So virtual sales conferences, that's the new normal. Contactless sales appointments, that's the new normal. More e-transactions, that's the new normal. And honestly, with or without COVID, it's a good thing. For a sales rep in a dealership, why not have a virtual appointment with your clients where you're not wasting their time? You're able to very quickly and efficiently present your case to them, show them what a great value you present, and be able to serve more customers in the day. And then, of course, with or without COVID, it's a good reminder that hygiene is important. I mean, I don't know who needed to be told that they needed to wash their hands because of COVID. I mean, don't we all wash our hands anyway? So good hygiene, good employee protection practices, and of course, adapting new technologies have been the great takeaway that I've seen here. And I've seen so many people just thriving, not just surviving, they're thriving. This challenge has spurred these men and these women who own and operate small businesses to really step up and lead. And that pleases me. It makes me happy.
So you're seeing businesses, dealers alike, not just maintaining, but those who are able to successfully innovate and adapt and think out of the box, actually thriving and growing right now?
Absolutely. And maybe I'm biased because I hang out with successful people, but nobody I know is not doing well. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't been challenged, and it doesn't mean they haven't been nervous. I think everybody's been nervous, a little fearful, a little concerned. But those that have stepped back and said, what's important to me? What is my core business? How can I serve my clients better? How can I protect my employees better? Those people, their businesses are thriving.
Yeah.
And that's a really good thing. And that's comforting because we can't say that about all sectors of the US or global economy. Our little sector has been very fortunate for those who are willing to step up and embrace the challenge.
And the water industry is so resilient because everything that we do in the water industry is 100% essential. We're so lucky for that essential personnel designation. And so being able to leverage that resiliency right now is really important. But at the start of this whole thing, I imagine there was a lot of concern because we weren't prepared for a situation like this, or many of us were not. I personally don't feel like I was. How do you prepare for a situation that's completely unexpected and unprecedented? And then when you go from there, how do you develop these tools and start new business practices to focus on this virtual environment? So I guess my question is, how can we take these skills that we're developing now and move forward with them and maybe integrate them into our new normal of business operation?
Good business is sustained like a three-legged stool. The three P's: people, products, and process. And when we look at our business, you can't stand up without all three of those working together. You have to have the right people, you have to have the right products and services, and you have to have your processes carefully mapped out and documented. The thing I've seen across the country is we've all found weaknesses in our processes.
Mm.
And so the key takeaway here is carefully map out what you think you do and then how to do it better, and then make sure you're sticking to it as you move forward, because the strength of your process is how well it works when variables are thrown into the mix. So none of us saw this coming the way it came. I remember I was at dinner with one of my clients who's a friend, and he said, "What do you think of this COVID thing?" And my exact words were, "It's a storm in a teacup. It'll be over in 2 weeks. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
So I should not go into business as a fortune teller. I would not do well at that. But what we saw quick, fast, and in a hurry is that this was not going away, and there's a host of reasons why. And what we all had to then scramble to do was to look at how this unfortunate circumstance could be turned into a way to help us find areas for improvement in our collective businesses, and how to train and mentor our people better. Because at the end of the day, the burden of a leader is not only making sure the bills get paid, but the burden of a leader is helping to motivate your team. And your team needs to see that you're confident. Your team needs to see that you believe in them and that you trust them. And then you need to demonstrate your belief, confidence, and trust in them by empowering them to make decisions within their sphere so that you can serve your customers faster and better. So this whole situation with COVID and all of the complications really has exposed weaknesses in a lot of companies as far as their processes are concerned, where they find areas where they have gaps. You know, the most common thing is a small business owner where the owner is the bottleneck. Everybody has to run and get permission from Mrs. Owner or Mr. Owner. And when you're in a situation like this, where communication lines are strained, where you've got lag time between visits, you can't handicap your employees. You can't hold them back by forcing them to use you as the hub and the spoke. So smart business owners have now given their employees the principles to work with, and then empowered them to make smart decisions. And of course, if and when mistakes are made, take those as learning opportunities and help everybody grow together. So I guess I'm the eternal optimist. I see opportunity at every corner here. I mean, it's a wonderful way to expose weaknesses and to fix them.
Yeah. I love the attitude of internal optimism, because we all really need that right now. Absolutely. So to your earlier point, creating a system like that creates more trust in both the employer and the employee, and hopefully that reaps benefits not just in having more sufficient employees, but also having better retention, because there's that trust factor there.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. And a business's biggest asset is your people. You know, when I went through business school, they taught that employees were a line on the liability column. And I get that from a financial perspective, but really when it comes to life, your greatest asset is your employee, your team member, that man or woman who dedicates a third of their day every day to you and your business. They are your greatest asset. And this is a good time for us to remember that and to look at how to find more willing talent. You know, we have unemployment numbers. They're obviously temporary, but we have unemployment numbers that are unprecedented in the last 90 to 100 years.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be an interesting thing as this COVID situation continues to wind down, and hopefully we have less people getting hurt.
Yeah.
And then we start with the quote unquote recovery, and then what everybody calls the new normal. It's going to be an interesting labor market for sure.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to end our discussion today talking about recovery and the quote unquote new normal, right? So hopefully as we're recording this, some states are starting to look forward, begin phases of reopening, gradually lift shelter-in-place orders. So hopefully, as you said, we do start seeing a reduction in cases and more feeling more safe in the workplace. So the question then becomes recovery. From your experiences and also from how you've been interacting with your clients and members, what have you seen about how businesses can begin successfully and safely reopening now, in terms of both financial health and also wellness for customers and employees alike?
The first thing to remember is that there's a large portion of the population who's been frustrated sitting at home watching Netflix and watching their waistlines grow. And our employees are not part of that. And so we can't forget that all of our employees have been working harder than usual. And we have to be willing to give them a break. And the temptation is that as the economy recovers, I sincerely believe that the pace of work will increase and the momentum will increase. And we have to be sensitive to the workload that we're placing on our own internal staff, ourselves, and our employees and subcontractors. We need to make sure that we're being very careful not to overwork people. And we have to, number one, actually appreciate the work they do. And then number two, tell them that we appreciate it. It's not just the amount of money you pay them. It's how you express what you truly believe about the value that they bring to your organization. If you respect and appreciate your staff, and you make sure that you give them the opportunity to rest and take a break, and that they're recognized for their hard work, then the recovery will be smoother. Now, with that said, part of the recovery is caring about your employees' health and safety, making sure that if somebody's sick, they get a chance to go home and recover. I'd rather somebody take 2 days off and recover than be at work for 2 weeks being sick and miserable and then making the rest of the team sick. And so hopefully COVID has taught some best practices for small business owners to understand that we need to be mindful of keeping our team healthy and helping to motivate our team sincerely, not with chintzy, silly promotions and things, but actually truly caring about them and helping to motivate them intrinsically because we care. Now, from a business owner's perspective, the biggest concern coming up next is inflationary costs. We've already seen that cost of goods at the grocery store are going up. And economists suggest that that trend will not slow down. We're going to see a continued increase in the cost of staples, which means that it costs our employees more to live. Now, with that said, we're seeing an incremental decrease in rent and real estate prices. But there are going to be upward pressures on the market. And this is important for those water professionals that are in the bidding contracting phase. Things that you bid 6 months ago, your costs of goods sold might go up by 20 to 30% over the next 3 to 6 months. And so it's really important to reassess what it actually costs you to be in business and what you're spending on parts and materials, because that has snuck up and it's become more expensive. And then just the process of being more vigilant with COVID. I mean, we have more cleaning people in our lives than we've ever dealt with. Our employees are spending 20 to 25% of their day now cleaning up after themselves and others that they didn't spend as much time on before. And that all affects your cost of staying in business.
I think what I'm hearing you say over and over and over, and I think what maybe one of the biggest takeaways viewers and listeners should take from this conversation is that your employees are one of your biggest assets. And now more than ever, you need to foster that trust and build that trust with them, whether it's learning from COVID or moving forward from lockdown. Am I hearing you right?
You're very smart. That's exactly right. Your employees are your greatest asset. Treat them as such. You're a team. Everybody goes forward together. And it's no different in the associations that we're members of. We're all a team. Everybody we work with, you know, they say a rising tide raises all boats. We should all be working to drive our industry forward. And at the same time, not lose track of the people that help us get there. Our families, our employees, our coworkers. The value of human relationships, I think, improved courtesy of COVID. I value a handshake a lot more than I did 3 months ago. I value a hug a lot more than I did 3 months ago.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. But also at the same time, I feel like with all these new virtual tools, we're finding so many more. Sometimes I feel like I connect with my readers and authors more now than ever because of how we're able to virtually leverage these tools. So it bodes well for the future.
I agree. I agree. And we shouldn't leave virtual behind us. Virtual really should augment everything we do. It should be a valuable tool in our tool chest, from employee engagement, customer engagement, vendor engagement. It's going to be part of our lives for the future. Let's learn how to use it properly.
Yeah. Well, I think we are about at our time for our chat. I thank you so much for the opportunity to pick your brain and share it with the listeners today. Is there any nugget of wisdom you might want to leave us with?
Well, there's so many people that are smarter than me, but I'll say one thing that I sincerely believe in.
Okay.
Hard times create strong people. You're stronger than you think you are. You have resources inside yourself. If you'll dig deep and find them, you'll lead your business, you'll lead your family, you lead your team to success beyond your wildest dreams. Believe in yourself.
Thank you. Great note to end on, and one I think maybe we all need to hear right now.
Thanks, Lauren. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with current PWQA President Greg Reyneke as much as I did. Thanks again for your time and expertise, Greg. Next, I want to share a video checking in with DJ Shannahan, current president for the Water Quality Association and president for Sharpwater Culligan. This conversation covers DJ's goals as current WQA president to increase engagement, particularly among young professionals and women in the water industry. It also explores how DJ's background as a dealer informs his leadership and bridges connections with members. I do want to remind you that this interview was recorded in July 2020, as the current business climate is constantly evolving right now. And one more reminder, if you're interested in checking in or submitting editorial for consideration for publication in WQP, please email me at wqpeditor@sgcmail.com or message me via LinkedIn. So now here's that interview with DJ. So welcome to Checking In, a series with water quality products. I'm Lauren ldelciello. I'm the managing editor for WQP, and I'm joined today by DJ Shannahan, who's our current WQA president and also president for Sharpwater Culligan. Thank you so much for joining me today, DJ. Appreciate your time.
Hey, Lauren, I really appreciate the opportunity to reach out and speak with some of our members and even some of those folks that are in the industry that may not be members yet. So thank you for your time to have this conversation.
I appreciate that. I mean, I'm really jazzed to be talking to you today because we've had some prior conversations that I think are really going to set us up for some interesting discussion that might be valuable to listeners. So first and foremost, I have to check in with you and ask how you're doing. How's everything going for you and your team, whether personally or professionally right now?
I think things are starting to feel a bit more like normal, although it's clear we're having a second wave of the COVID virus, but certainly our business was impacted like everyone's was. And Q2, you can pretty much throw out the window, and we'll ratchet up and have been ratcheting up for the last couple of weeks for a strong second half of the year. Already seeing some turnaround. The second half of June, when we got everybody back to work, we've already started to see some performance improvements, attitude improvements. People are excited to get back to work, and customers are excited about the products and services that we offer to make sure they have access to high quality drinking water, which they may have taken for granted before. And we're seeing a lot of uptick, especially in bottled water and reverse osmosis, because of that concern over having easier access to high quality drinking water. So I think that might be one of the silver linings that comes out of this whole virus and pandemic that we've all been dealing with worldwide.
Yeah, well, great to hear that your team is doing well and business is going nicely and that things are maybe starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. So I hope you guys keep doing good.
Thank you.
Um, So I asked you to join me today because you took your role as president in kind of a little bit of an unconventional time. You were virtually handed the gavel, so maybe didn't get that usual opportunity to share what some of your goals and insights are as president this year are going to be. So first and foremost, I wanted to ask you, what are your goals as WQA president this year?
Well, first of all, I'll say, although I have my own personal goals, I have to reiterate what the key tenets are for the Water Quality Association. So we have four key tenets in our strategic plan. They get reviewed every 3 years by the board of directors and the board of governors. But primarily, we need to focus on legislative and regulatory advocacy. We focus on product certification. We focus on professional certification and training, and we focus on consumer and industry relevance. So those are the tenets of the Water Quality Association, and we have supporting strategies that go along with each of those goals, but that's really what we're here to do. The Water Quality Association doesn't sell products. We certify products. We certify and educate people. That's really how I got involved with the Water Quality Association 30 years ago when my father first bought a small water treatment company, and we didn't know really what we were doing. And so within a few months, we reached out to WQA, found that they had the education we needed, and kind of took off from there. So that's really the broader vision and global vision of what the Water Quality Association does. For me personally, I had so many different thoughts in my mind about things I wanted to accomplish in my year as president. And so I flew out to Wisconsin. I talked to a former WQA president, Brett Tangley. He gave me an entire day of his time. We had a great day together, and I laid out all these wonderful things that I wanted to do. And he just kind of chuckled a little bit, and he said, "I got news for you. You'll never be able to get all that done. While they may be very lofty goals and they all could help move the needle forward for the association, that's too much. You need to scale back and focus on one or two goals." So for me, this is what I rolled out in my speech at the virtual opening general session. It's going to be about engagement. I want to improve and encourage more engagement within our current membership, and of course grow membership as well. And this really stems back to the convention we had in Denver. I felt like, specifically from the dealers especially, that we were very underrepresented. The dealers represent the largest portion of members of the association. And not speaking in terms of dues, but speaking in terms of numbers of members, the dealers are really where our membership comes from. And so when you go into a dealer section meeting at an annual convention and the room isn't packed with the dealer leaders of the industry, I get concerned. And I heard that concern from several others as well. So that really was what kind of started my mind thinking, how did we lose participation? How did we lose engagement? What happened along the way? And in just a few short years, we went from having, a packed house at all these dealer section meetings with great topics to really not grasping some of the key things we should be talking about in those dealer section meetings. And then that kind of carried over to a boot camp that wasn't as successful as I had hoped it would be. First boot camp, I think, for our first year, we did really, really well. My expectations for the second year of boot camp, which again is primarily a dealer centered education piece, was that we would move forward with at least twice as many people as we had at the first boot camp. That didn't happen. And so we changed completely how we were going to try and reach dealers, changed the message to be more focused on learning from the pros, had a really great boot camp number 3 planned for a convention with several industry leaders. And unfortunately, we were not able to put on that boot camp. So, but that was really kind of what got the thinking going, was we are struggling to get the engagement we need from our dealer leaders. And then the other thing that's really apparent is that we have an aging leadership within the WQA. And I got to go back to what you said when we had our town hall meeting at mid-year last year, and you kind of coined us the silver tsunami. And, it really is true. You look around, who's in that room? Aside from yourself and a few other young leaders, that room is filled with the 30-year veterans like myself that have been doing this, most of our lives. And that's not going to allow us to be able to move forward the way we need to. So WQA has these two great advisory councils called the WIN, which is Women in Industry, and YP, the Young Professionals. And they are just so dynamic and so exciting to work with. And I tell you, going to the WIN meetings is now probably my favorite thing to go to. I just really had no idea that we had this many really engaged and wonderful and thinking and volunteering and intelligent leaders from the females in this industry. And so that was so refreshing to see. That's a no miss meeting for me for sure going forward. I love the way it's being led. And Kathleen, of course, does a great job from the staff side, as does Paulie. And then, of course, the former president, our only female president in our history, with Denise Urbans, taking the lead there as well. Really great to see what's going on there. And so we're actually going to use the template that was put together for the WIN mentoring program for our new mentoring program to try and increase engagement. So what I've done is create sort of a farm team list. And I challenged each of the directors. So there's 24 directors on the board of directors, 15 manufacturer supplier representatives, and 9 dealer representatives. And I challenged the 24 board of director members to supply me with at least one name of somebody they knew in the industry that they felt like could become a future leader. And so I have a farm team now of 42 names. Each of them are assigned a mentor that is a current board of director. We now have the framework used by WIN to put together sort of the meat on the bones of how this mentoring program is going to work. We kicked it off at our Board of Governors meeting 2 weeks ago, and then we'll have our first orientation meeting coming up later this month. So there'll be quarterly check-ins with each of the mentors and mentees. There's going to be some exercises that they have to go to. And then at the end of the year, there's going to be a wrap-up to verify that the mentee got what he or she expected, the mentor got what he or she expected. And then those top candidates will be the ones where their names will be submitted to the nominating committee for potential leadership in the association. But I also wanted to point out that this isn't just about becoming a board of director or a board of governor or an officer or even the president of the WQA someday.
Right.
I can assure you, I never set out 30 years ago to be the president of the Water Quality Association. And I'm sure we have several people that are listening today thinking that, oh, this guy was, he was born to be WQA president. No, he wasn't. Yeah, I dumped tanks for a living 30 years ago at a small portable exchange tank company. I delivered salt, I delivered bottled water, I delivered exchange tanks, I drove a truck. I did not expect to be the WQA president, but there is a path to move forward if that is something that you aspire to become. And I think that path is largely unknown to a lot of our members. So that's one thing I'm hopeful I can expand on a little bit today, is there is a process. And the way the process works is, if you have interest in getting involved and volunteering for the association, we would ask that you sit in as an observer for some of these section meetings, committee meetings, task force meetings, or even the councils, like the WIN, for example. When I sat in as an observer, fantastic, to see that. You get an opportunity to see how the committees and sections and task forces and councils are led, and you get an opportunity to see if that's something you feel like you could contribute to. And if you like it, then you certainly reach out to the staff leader or the board liaison and say, I really would like to become a member of this group. And then after you served as a member, if it still is something that you feel passionate about, then you certainly can move up, a request to move up to a vice chair position or a chair position. So, for me personally, my passion has always been the Federal Government Relations Committee, of course, now led by Dave Loveday and with Kathleen doing such a great job assisting him. That's how we got together in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
You see what we're doing there to try and bring regulatory and legislative legitimacy to our industry and to what we do every day. That's just a passion for me. I certainly didn't set out to do that, but that's kind of how I got active in WQA initially, when I was asked to speak in front of the Senate in the state of Delaware on a bill that was being sort of railroaded through, that was going to make it virtually impossible for dealers to be able to do in-home water presentations statewide in Delaware. And that certainly wasn't the intention. So, not knowing what to do, I reached out to WQA the day before the bill was going to drop. David's predecessor was nice enough to get involved right away, put together some additional language that made it a little bit more clear. We helped get the bill rewritten before it was actually dropped. Then they had a few interviews with some of us industry professionals in the area. I got to speak in front of the Senate. The bill passed. Didn't really impact us, but it did take out some of the door-to-door scamming that you sometimes see. In fact, I think I just saw a video on one in San Antonio that made the news a week or so ago, where somebody was going door to door and trying to intimidate, let's say, a homeowner into believing they needed to spend a significant amount of money to improve the water in their home, when in fact they really didn't need to spend that money. And then of course you've got the scammers that are trying to use the COVID virus and saying that, you know, you have to spend money now to put these expensive water treatment devices in your home, when that may or may not be the case. So, you know, that gets back to the ethics then of the association, and the fact that we have a code of ethics and we require members to live by that code of ethics. So to try and misrepresent yourself as a member of the Water Quality Association, or even an employee of the Water Quality Association, to try and sell products is not something that we will tolerate. But it just gets back to, what is it that our association is trying to do? And then back to your question, and I'm sorry to sidetrack quite so much, but back to your question was, what do I think I can do in my year about that? And what I really hope to be able to do is cultivate that next level of leadership for the association. They can follow the path of people like me that just, you know, woke up one day in an industry that they got passionate about and fell in love with, and 30 years later have an opportunity to give back to the industry that's served me so well.
So, self-described people person, DJ Shannahan. I appreciate your answer and how you fielded 4 questions from me all in one.
That's kind of what I do, and I apologize for that, but I get just so fired up about what we have the opportunity to do. You think about it, you know, we make a living helping people. And I think about that every day. Every time a new system is installed, I don't feel like that customer didn't need that. I know that we've improved the quality of life for that homeowner, and it's just so rewarding.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, and I mean, you know, those same missions are very important to me as well. So I definitely appreciate that you're making them a priority. We are getting a little close on time, so I do just want to ask you one other question, which was about your background as a dealer. And I know you've said that you're probably one of the first dealer presidents that we've had in a little while. So how does your background and your experience there kind of uniquely position you, and how does it maybe inform your leadership goals and communication styles as president right now?
I think it's been interesting to see the fact that, you know, we really have a lot of great leadership from our manufacturer and supplier side, very smart people. I think for me, one of the big differences is, you know, I'm not the college educated master, you know, MBA candidate that I think a lot of our past presidents have been, and future presidents certainly will be. I'm street smart. I'm educated by actually being in homes and serving customers. And I think that gives us a nice, different perspective, because I'm hands-on. I see this every day. When we talk about something, we're talking about it sort of in theory,
Right.
when we're at the director level and at the governor's level. But when you're at the dealer level, you live this every day. So going in homes, testing water, designing proper water treatment systems, installing them and applying them correctly, and servicing them down the road to make sure they do what we promised they will do, is certainly something that I see the dealers fulfilling that is maybe not a perspective that we can get quite so much from the manufacturer and supplier side. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share that at the level. And I'll be honest with you, there are some very intelligent people in this room, and they appreciate that level of just street input of what a dealer goes through. You know, what's the life of a dealer look like?
Right.
And I think I bring that to the table.
Yeah. So, quick, like 10 seconds, what is the absolute number one thing that you'd like listeners to take away from our chat right now? If you had to boil it down to one nutshell of what you want people to hear from you today.
That if you truly want to grow your business, you need to become an active member of the Water Quality Association. We have the tools that you need to do just that.
There's the nutshell. So thanks for your time, DJ. I do hope that we can connect later in the year, maybe partway through your term, and see how you're meeting these challenges of increasing engagement in a more remote environment. I'm definitely interested to see how your strategy goes, and I hope it's successful.
That would be wonderful. I appreciate the opportunity, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching and engaging with WQP today. Please don't hesitate to reach out and start a conversation. Until we meet again, be safe and be well.